President also said at the Pentagon yesterday that he wants American cities to be used as training grounds for the American military. Is this the highest and best use of the U.S. military, and is this the right way to train them?
I don't serve in the Pentagon. I run the House of Representatives. And what we need to be talking about today is real harm that the American people are going to feel because of what Chuck Schumer is doing. Let me tell you what's going to be heard today.
Hold on a second. As Speaker of the House, do you answer the question? As Speaker of the House, do you believe it's appropriate to use American cities as training grounds for the U.S. military, calling those people in the American cities the enemy within? I'm asking you, as Speaker of the House, do you think that's appropriate?
I'm not going to comment on your characterization of what the president said. I didn't get to see that speech because I was a little busy yesterday.
Damn! Well, nothing gets Republicans more riled up than when people literally quote Trump's words to them, and they're forced to defend them.
Well, you can take his quotes out of context, which you often do, and I don't think that's fair to the president.
This is what happened when Speaker Mike Johnson had a full-blown meltdown on ABC after George Stephanopoulos had enough, and he basically pressed Johnson about Trump's war from within rhetoric and talk of deploying military forces to U.S. cities. When asked whether the president sees cities as, quote, training grounds, Johnson bristled, claiming it was hypothetical and accusing Stephanopoulos of bad faith.
Hold on a second. As Speaker of the House, do you answer the question? As Speaker of the House, do you believe it's appropriate to use American cities as training grounds for the U.S. military, calling those people in the American cities the enemy within? I'm asking you, as Speaker of the House, do you think that's appropriate?
I'm not going to comment on your characterization of what the president said. I didn't get to see that speech because I was a little busy yesterday. Well, you can take his quotes out of context, which you often do, and I don't think that's fair to the president. I'll tell you what he's done, though. He's put National Guard troops here in D.C. and cleaned up the crime problem. People can walk safely to and from work today because the president takes crime seriously. Some of the big mayors in some of these big blue cities are not, and I think that's probably what he was addressing there. But
how about we just watch the words back, right? And we'll all just see if George was misquoting or acting in bad faith.
Important mission, and I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
Don't think there's any other way to interpret that there, MAGA Mike. Unless you are, of course, blinded by your allegiance, which is clearly what's happening here. Fearing a telling off from his cult leader, Johnson just refused to admit that Trump might view American cities as internal battlefields, despite the fact that, well, he's saying it and doing things that live up to that exact type of thinking.
Fire department. I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote, too. That helps. When you get 95% of their vote, you always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up in ladders, and you have people shooting at them while they're up in ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible. They're up in one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder, it's over.
Johnson claimed that no current policy supports using the military in that way, denying any plan to deploy troops internally, right? Because Trump would never do that, right?
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
What they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in.
And here's the thing. MAGA Mike is panicking when it comes to answering these questions because He knows just how wildly unpopular Trump's stance on this is. The American people despise the idea of military being used against its citizens, as they should. A Reuters Ipsos poll from August found only 38% of Americans support using troops to police Washington.
Some violent, crazy people who are screaming at kids with a few crazy liberals who are screaming at the vice president. But I think that's a very worthwhile trade to make, because we want our people to be able to enjoy our beautiful cities. And the last thing I'll say is to the American people, D.C. is already safer than it was 9 days ago, but we're going to make it safer still to come. This is your city. You should feel free to come and visit here, have a meal, see all these incredible monuments, and actually enjoy yourself. And that's what we're trying to make happen. And I think that if we set a standard in Washington, D.C., that political willpower can bring some common sense, law and order back to these communities, then maybe some other communities and other cities will follow suit. So it's kind of crazy. You hear these guys outside. They appear to hate the idea that Americans can enjoy their communities, and they do the fact that D.C. a week ago had a higher murder rate than Trinidad and Tobago, which the United States State Department has said you shouldn't visit because it's unsafe. We ought to be able to enjoy great American cities. That's what we're trying to do in the Trump administration.
So I don't think necessarily that they're paid, but I understand that those people probably have a higher quality of life than a lot of people who are inner city DCians. And the polling has always been consistent that minority residents of these cities want more police, not less. So I'm not fighting with that. I think that if you just say there's no problem at all, that you're going to be on the wrong side of it. And we've lost too many 80-20 issues. But I think that we can be smart about this. You can point out the fact that you have members of the National Guard walking on the mall and around Georgetown guarding Sephora. And then that's an absurd use of tax dollars. You could also say, hey, Republicans, you took $1 billion from the DC budget, money that was going to go to police salaries and school programs, because we know also kids don't commit crimes if they're actually in school. That's a good thing. So that's a solution. Give us back our money. I also think Muriel Bowser has been very conciliatory with Donald Trump. She doesn't want to be on his bad side. She immediately took up Black Lives Matter Plaza when he came back into office. Why didn't he say, I'm thinking about doing this, Mayor Bowser, how can we work together? We have the same goals and the same aims. Do it with the police chief as well and try to figure that out.
Bowser is in Martha's Vineyard right
now. For
one
day on a personal family matter. I don't know what's good. She's not going to be found at a party on the beach. If you were about to do that, don't do that, because I just said that you're not going to. What is also the most important aspect of this is that taking over the DC police, like what he did in Los Angeles as well, is part of this massive consolidation of power that Donald Trump has been undertaking. So when you call an emergency for everything, and he even said today, remember it is an emergency. It is not. He said at first, I have 30 days. And then he said, well, I can make it a national emergency and then it would be forever. I could do it. I don't know if I will, how he plays around with that. What he's doing with redistricting mid-cycle, how he's going after universities and law firms, how he's firing people who give him information that he doesn't want, like the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
All legal.
And he puts in a guy who goes to January 6th who's going to do what he wants, and maybe we won't have a job report.
What is your alternative? A CBS News poll showed that the majority of Americans oppose deployment of the National Guard to U.S. cities. Many said it would threaten their liberties or be politically motivated, not effective in reducing crime. Hence all the videos of said National Guard troops cleaning up trash. Johnson's refusal to admit that the administration's direction clashes with how most Americans feel, that deployment of troops on US soil is more of a power play than anything to do with public safety. And if the speaker has a problem interpreting his dear leader's words, which were clear as day, maybe he ought to get back to work and ask him about them instead of, overseeing another Republican-led shutdown.
The last two government shutdowns that happened came during President Trump's first term in office. The last shutdown, which was also the longest in modern American history, did cost the U.S. economy $11 billion.
And $185 billion has been saved already.
So basically, what you did was narrow the eligibility for certain people to get access to the ACA subsidies. What they want to do is undo the changes that Republicans made made in that. But basically, wouldn't that only affect people who do have legal status, people who are refugee seekers here in the United States, asylum seekers here?
Those are two totally different issues. So now they've created this as a new argument that they have as to why they should not keep the government open, but they're arguing a December policy debate.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.